In this video, I'm going to be explaining to you guys my theory on how George will be the boss fight in Chapter 12. So you guys probably already know, in the distorted memory chapter, George in the final cutscene turns with evil red eyes, and that is a very bad thing. George possibly killed or infected the people at the safe house, because in that chapter George has no idea what's happening to him, and there's certain words that George says that identifies that this has happened to him before. In the middle of the cutscene, George says, "I don't feel too well." Then after that, George's eyes turn bloody red and he says, "No, not now." That identifies that George knows about this and he has experienced this before. So how and when did George experience this in the first place? I am pretty sure when his family came back from the hospital, they were probably all okay and all fine. But over time, George noticed that they started becoming more crazy, more, I guess, more wanting to kill, and that's what happened to George. And over time, without the family knowing that they were infected by this potion, they of course touched George, kissed George, hugged George to sleep, all that type of stuff. And the potion could be able to spread over hand touching, sweating, kissing, spit, all of that. And you know what happened? It transferred to George. But George is young. In the show Peppa Pig, George is only 2 years old, by the way. He's only 2. So George is very young, and his family and Peppa are all in their adults, and Peppa's like a teenager in the show. So for George only, he could be able to control this power and harness it and have 2 split personalities. So for example, George in Evil George mode could destroy, infect people, kill people / their pigs, and destroy and make havoc across the Piggy universe. And good George with no red eyes possibly doesn't remember anything that this Evil George could do to him. That's why it could mean the chapter Distorted Memory. That means George has mixed memories on what has happened back then. So everything in Distorted Memory, like the bigger houses, like the bigger rooms, that doesn't exist in Chapter 1. George has a mixed reality on what's true and what's not true. So George possibly does not remember anything in Red George mode. And that could be a big threat in Chapter 12. Imagine you're about to start fighting Mr. Potato, and George decides to, it's time to turn. And once he turns, he doesn't remember anything, and he goes sicko mode on you and Mr. Potato. And once Mr. Potato realizes he created a bigger monster than he realized, you and Mr. Potato will have to team up and fight against evil Red George. In Chapter 11, at the end cutscene, and that could be a big threat in Chapter 12. Imagine you're about to start fighting Mr. Potato, and George decides to, it's time to turn. And once he turns, he doesn't remember anything, and he goes sicko mode on you and Mr. Potato. And once Mr. Potato realizes he created a bigger monster than he realized, you and Mr. Potato will have to team up and fight against evil Red George. In Chapter 11, at the end cutscene, George comes at the very end and says he was playing hide and seek with Zizzy and Zuzu. And George possibly infected Zizzy and Zuzu because George went away. So probably evil George stepped in and decided to go ham on them, infect them, and destroy the entire safe house. So George, I am possibly sure, will be the biggest boss fight in Piggy history. If you guys have any other theories, please click that subscribe button and click that like button, guys, and leave your theories in the comments. And I'm trying to improve my content, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next Piggy video. See you tomorrow or the next day. Have a good night, guys, or day. Peace out. Bye.